Dying to be Stuckmocky. Chapter 21. Vira on her feet again. Vira stared speechlessly at Fahyrjeon. Some moments later she found her voice again. "Oh, well, I'm sure glad I didn't go to any trouble. I mean, I could have hurt myself or something, stumbling around in the dark like that. Then where would I be? Ha! Hopping around the countryside with a throbbing lump on my head, I suppose." Before she could fire off any more sarcasm, Fahyrjeon bent over, cupped its hands under her armpits, and threw her over its shoulder. "Yeah, this is way more dignified," Vira continued, complaining to the night air behind Fahyrjeon's back. She muttered and fumed to herself as they walked back across the bridge towards Trinknopf, then found a quiet spot by the side of the road where Fahyrjeon could perform some healing. Once the Stuckmocky was seated, Vira found herself abruptly flopped into its lap and held like a cherished rag doll, while it lifted her swollen ankle to its mouth and hummed a deep tone into it. The pitch of the humming shifted around experimentally until it found just the right resonance. Then it settled in for some serious vibrating. "That is a most pleasing tone," commented Mirrin. "Much preferable to the malodorous saliva." Fahyrjeon hummed obliviously with its eyes closed, in a look of meditative concentration. Without any warning, its mouth lunged for Vira's forehead and began humming a slightly different tone to the lump there. As much as Vira trusted Fahyrjeon, she found the intimacy of the relocated hum-kissing just a little uncomfortable. It was turning into a flustered evening in general for her, it seemed. Before she felt compelled to say something sarcastic, the humming shifted again, back to the ankle. Vira put a hand up to her brow in response to the warm, tingling sensation there, and her fingers discovered an almost smooth forehead, admittedly a little wet, but completely without discomfort. The lab-coated Stuckmocky flashed briefly into her mind again, but was dissipated by the sound of Fahyrjeon's voice. "That should be sufficient treatment for now. I've concentrated on the ankle in order to allow for early mobility, but I think we should be on our way. Otherwise I would complete the healing process." Vira struggled clumsily out of Fahyrjeon's lap and stood up warily. In spite of discovering her newly healed forehead, she was still surprised to find that putting weight on her right foot didn't produce any pain. "Amazing! Can all Stuckmocky do that?" "We all have the ability, but the skills must be learned." Fahyrjeon looked searchingly at Vira. "You have nothing like this in your world?" "Not that I know of. We've been trained to trust chemicals we can swallow, smear on, or inject into an arm." Fahyrjeon looked shocked. "That sounds barbaric." Vira was discovering that although there was no more pain in her ankle, it wasn't fully healed. "It's still really weak, though. I don't think I can walk very well." "That should present no obstacle," asserted Mirrin. "I can carry you with ease." "Oh, began Vira. "My shoulder is comfortable, is it not?" asked Fahyrjeon. "Yes, it certainly is, but I think I'll just lean on Mirrin. I can probably get along fine that way." Fahyrjeon stood up. "If you prefer. A little exercise could actually assist the healing, but if you should feel discomfort, I will insist on carrying you." "I can't argue with that, mainly because you're much bigger than me," grinned Vira, feeling better than she had for hours. "Now, which way do we go? Not all the way back to Warchit, I hope." While Mirrin rose, dusted himself off, and arranged his robe in a more seemly fashion, Fahyrjeon stood looking puzzled, turning its chest from left to right indecisively. "I'm not sure what to make of this. When I face this way," it said, turning left off the road, "I feel intensity. But when I turn this way," it said, turning towards the town, "I feel proximity." "Which feels more important?" asked Vira. "Proximity." "So let's go then," said Vira, leaning heavily on Mirren's shoulder as they set off along the road. "I've heard good things about Trinknopf." "Yes," joined in Mirrin, in his less than accomplished woman's voice. "I have excellent reports of the town's crockery and delightful bakery products." As they approached the now deserted town square, Fahyrjeon began to walk faster and faster, and Vira had trouble keeping up. She was about to voice a protest when she heard a soft cooing sound coming from her friend. Fahyrjeon was almost dancing with agitation now, and kept turning to urge Vira on. "Oh, all right, you can carry me," said Vira resignedly. Without hesitation, the Stuckmocky scooped her up and broke into a run which challenged even Mirrin to match. When Fahyrjeon stopped running, Vira wriggled out of its sticky arms to find herself standing in a corner of the town square next to a wagon. Its harness was empty of the usual oxen, but the wagon itself had a large box shape on top of it, the details of which Vira couldn't make out in the shadows of the buildings. Then she detected a movement within the outline of the box, and she suddenly understood what she was seeing: a cage big enough to hold a man in very cramped conditions. Fahyrjeon was cooing madly and dancing around the wagon, while a similar sound was coming from the cage. Then Fahyrjeon began making noises that sounded more like a language, but nothing quite like anything Vira had heard from its mouth before. She waited patiently for as long as she could, but it proved not to be very long. "Fahyrjeon, who is this?" Fahyrjeon ignored her, which she wasn't at all used to, but she decided to overlook it given the circumstances. Her friend climbed eagerly onto the back of the wagon and began tugging at the heavy lock on the door of the cage, all the while seeming to engage in a long, indecipherable conversation. After watching Fahyrjeon's futile efforts for a moment, Mirrin also climbed onto the back of the wagon, took one of the swords from the belt around the furry neck, and pushed his way into position. He looked at the sword regretfully for a moment as it glinted magnificently in a sliver of moonlight, then brought it down forcefully on the metal lock. Vira saw a small chunk of metal fly past her face and decided to retreat to a safer distance. It only took 2 more skilled blows from Mirrin's sword before the door of the cage jumped open. Mirrin climbed down from the wagon to lean against it and mournfully cradle the badly chipped blade. Vira moved closer and peered through the darkness as a large shape slowly and clumsily emerged from the cage. It unfolded itself stiffly off the back of the wagon with Fahyrjeon's help, then fell into the other's arms, proving to be a whole head taller. The mutual cooing doubled in volume as the two rocked together in a long embrace. Vira couldn't contain her impatience any longer. "Fahyrjeon, who is it? Is it someone from your clan?" "Oh, Vira," said Fahyrjeon, acknowledging her presence for the first time since reaching the cage. "I want you to meet my child, Vahira."